Hey guys, the Mensch Master Studios here. How y'all doing? So I'm sure as you guys know, when it comes to Crystalized, the ending of the season is very controversial amongst the fan base, with a lot of fans really not liking this. And honestly, I'm completely with these fans. I did not like the ending of Crystalized, and honestly, I thought it was really bad. And in today's video, I just wanted to talk about why I personally don't like the ending of Crystalized. And if you did personally like the ending of Crystalized, hey, that is fine. I have nothing against you. Again, I just wanted to present my personal reasons as to why I didn't like this episode. So let's get into the whole thing. So the episode picks up right after the previous episode ended, with Lloyd, Garmadon, and Harumi battling against the Overlord. And I know it didn't happen in this episode, it happened in episode 29, but I still want to bring it up. But the whole deal with Harumi's redemption was done absolutely terribly, I feel, when it comes to the show. Harumi's redemption ultimately boils down to her blaming someone else for her problems, and that is literally it. Plus, on to mention when it comes to it, it ends up completely ignoring some pretty big reasons as to why Harumi actually became a villain in the first place. Now, you may be wondering why I put redemption in quotation marks, and I'll be getting into that later on. But anyway, the fight continues, and Garmadon is hurt, and he seemingly dies. And this is a bit of an issue that I have when it comes to Crystalized that I never mentioned, and that is the fake-out deaths. This season does so many fake-out deaths, and honestly, I don't think any of them are done particularly well, honestly. Either because the marketing gave it away that these characters are still going to be alive, or there's the other issue of the scenes just not being done well overall and us having seen this multiple times. Like Zane nearly dying during episode 26. We have seen Zane almost dying multiple times when it comes to the show. Like, I honestly wasn't fooled by that, and when it comes to Garmadon's fake-out death here, once again, I wasn't fooled by this. And honestly, yeah, I think this was definitely a big issue that Crystalized had, because these fake-out deaths overall, I don't think they were handled well, honestly. However, as a result of Garmadon's death, Lloyd is then able to tap into his Oni form, and he decides to fight against the Overlord using these powers. And this is something that is really cool. Oni Lloyd has been built up over the course of half the season, starting in episode 14, with the idea that Lloyd's Oni form is what will be used in order to actually destroy the Overlord once and for all. So Lloyd taps into his Oni form, he gets the golden Oni mask and an extra set of arms that was never explained, but hey, that's fine. And so Lloyd, he decides to start battling against the Overlord, blasting Oni energy at him, and we get this for 20 seconds. Oni Lloyd is barely in the season. He's here for again, 20 seconds, and that is basically it. That's half a season's worth of build-up to barely any payoff in the end. And overall, once again, I don't think this was handled well at all. Why have all this build-up over half the season if you're going to do basically nothing with this in the end? I don't think that makes any sense, honestly. After this, the ninja then realizes everything that's going on when it comes to the Crystal King and what he wants to do, and so what the ninja end up doing is deciding to unite all 4 golden weapons. And I will admit, this scene involving the original 4 ninja, it is pretty nice, with them talking about how this might be their final chance to do stuff. And so again, this scene overall, it's pretty nice. The group ends up combining the 4 golden weapons, the golden dragon is created, and Lloyd then fights against the Overlord while on the golden dragon, and overall, once again, I think this fight is honestly pretty good. The fight looks good, the animation is amazing, as always when it comes to Wild Brain, and just, yeah, overall, these scenes, I think that they're actually handled pretty well. And those are the only 2 positives I can actually give this episode. That one nice moment with the original 4 ninja and this fight scene, and that's it. Everything else is not handled well at all, I feel. We then have the conclusion to the battle, where Lloyd uses the Golden Dragon in order to fight against the Overlord and defeat him, and it's just that. He's defeated. And it's not entirely clear as to whether or not the Overlord was actually destroyed, like something else that had also been built up over the course of the season. Again, he's just defeated, and we don't know whether or not he's actually been destroyed, which I think is kind of weird. There's then the reveal that, oh hey, Garmadon is actually alive and he was faking dying. And Lloyd even calls out the idea of Oni power, saying how it wasn't even Oni power that he used in order to actually fight against the Overlord and defeat him, and how it was the Golden Dragon, which once again I feel backs up the idea that why do all this build up when it comes to Oni power if there's going to be basically no payoff in the end? Again, that doesn't make any sense. And so Lloyd then takes Garmadon and Harumi and brings them onto a building where the original 4 ninja are, while the Oni Temple is destroyed and the Overlord's influence is erased from Ninjago City, once again like we saw at the end of Season 2. Lloyd and the ninja then reunite, and the original four ninja give Harumi some angry looks, and Lloyd says that it's fine that she's with us. And that's basically all the consequences Harumi faces for her actions. Yeah, this is one of the big reasons why I honestly really don't like what they did with Harumi during these final two episodes. It's the fact that she faces absolutely no consequences for any of her actions all throughout the events of the show. Yeah, let's just completely forget about the fact that Harumi is a murderer who's responsible for the death of the Emperor and Empress in Ninjago. Oh yeah, and how about the fact that she's responsible for multiple terrorist attacks in Ninjago City? She resurrected some of Ninjago's greatest villains. She ruined Lloyd's life for basically no reason. And how about the fact that it's entirely her fault that the Overlord's back in the first place, considering the fact that she's the one who took the crystal and put it in the center of Primeval's eye? Yeah, she did all that stuff and so much more. And what? Just because she did one good thing, we're instantly gonna forget about that? Like, seriously. This is something that I really don't like that they did when it came to the ending of Crystalized. The fact that Harumi faces absolutely no consequences for her actions, other than this one brief moment and one purely speculative moment that we see by the end of the episode. Overall, this was not handled well. Also, one other thing that I want to bring up, I don't think that Harumi even redeemed herself by fighting against the Overlord. Something that I tend to bring up whenever I talk about Harumi saving those three people right before she died during Season 9 is this. Just because Harumi did one good thing, that doesn't instantly make up for all the terrible stuff that she's done over the events of the show. And when it comes to Crystalized, it is literally the exact same deal. How is it that her fighting against the Overlord once instantly makes up for all the terrible stuff that she's done? Again, like I said, Harumi's actually killed people like the Emperor and Empress in Ninjago. And in fact, when it comes to this whole situation, at no point during these final two episodes do we ever actually see Harumi apologize to Lloyd and the other ninja for what she's done, or even show any signs of sympathy or remorse for her actions. Like, to me, I still think that Harumi is a bad guy. Again, just because she did this one good thing, that doesn't instantly redeem her, and we've seen villains fight against other villains before when it comes to the show, and they've still been bad guys. And I honestly think this is the exact same type of situation, and Harumi's literally doing the exact same thing that she did during Season 8. She's just lying to everyone and is pretending to be a good person just so that way she can try and get what she wants later on. Like, that I think makes a lot more sense than Harumi all of a sudden swapping sides just because she was mad at the wrong person. The ninja then say goodbye to the golden dragon, which then disappears, and it's implied that the ninja have lost their powers now. And those are like the only stakes that we end up getting when it comes to this season. Like, seriously, when it comes to the ending of this season, that is literally it. Just, the ninja might not have powers anymore. And we've seen the ninja lose and regain their powers so many times over the events of the show. Like, the stakes in this season are basically non-existent when you look at it, considering stuff that we know from earlier seasons. And overall, to have basically nothing bad happen in the end, I'm honestly not sure if that was the right decision to go in. We then see the monastery getting rebuilt, and we get an honestly really bad scene of Harumi walking past Lloyd, which is an absolute betrayal of both of their characters. It's an absolute betrayal of Harumi's character considering all the terrible stuff that she's done to Lloyd over the events of the show, and just all the bad stuff that she's done in general, to all of a sudden just have her be on good terms with everyone. That makes absolutely no sense, especially the ninja, considering the fact that Harumi still has issues with the ninja that are never brought up or resolved at any point during the season. And so again, just to see Harumi like this, it makes no sense. And plus, it's an absolute betrayal of Lloyd's character, considering all the character development that he's gone through in the past 3 years with his arc of him getting over Harumi and moving on from her. An absolutely amazing story arc that this season just throws away for basically no reason. Like, I genuinely don't get the decision to abruptly end Lloyd's story arc and go back on it for, again, basically no reason. In fact, the only thing that they don't do when it comes to this situation is force a romance between Lloyd and Harumi, and that is something that I genuinely hope does not happen in the future, because that would end up just being a really terrible decision, especially considering, again, the past 3 years of character development that Lloyd's went through. And at the same time, when it comes to this, like I said earlier, we don't see Harumi ever apologizing to the ninja, especially Lloyd, and something that I hope we don't get in the future is Lloyd forgiving Harumi, because honestly, I don't think that Lloyd should forgive Harumi. After everything that Lloyd's been through directly because of Harumi, Lloyd has absolutely no reason to forgive her. And if they do end up doing that sort of thing, once again, it would be a really bad decision and completely go against Lloyd's character arc. Also, when it comes to the monastery being rebuilt, it's set to the sound of Inner Steel, which, I'm gonna be honest, I think that's a bit of a weird choice for them to go with. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that Inner Steel is a good song, but out of all the songs to end the season on, why this song out of all of them? Like, I think a better choice would have been something like either the Overture theme or a remix of the Weekend Whip or the song that was used at the ending of March of the Oni. Just any of these songs I feel like would have been a much better choice, honestly, than Inner Steel. So yeah, overall, when it comes to Roots, I really didn't like this episode, and I think it's honestly a really bad ending. And there's a lot of issues that I have when it comes to this. Garmadon's fake out death, the absolute lack of payoff for basically everything relating to Oni Lloyd, the Overlord getting defeated and have destroyed her, well, that being more left up to interpretation, pretty much everything that had to do with Harumi, the lack of consequences, the really weird way that they decide to end the season with the song choice, and the rebuilding of the monastery overall just being pretty bad, honestly. And plus, there's two more issues that I have when it comes to this. Mainly the ambiguous ending. And look, I think that an ambiguous ending can work, but I think it helps better if you don't leave so many things up to interpretation, and if you at the very least have hints as to where things can end up going. Yet when it comes to this ending, there's so many unanswered questions. Like, what exactly is going to happen with the ninja's powers? What's the deal with the ninja being fugitives now? What about the villains? Heck, what's even going on when it comes to Harumi? Like, seriously, we don't get any real answers when it comes to this. And honestly, I think the overly happy ending, honestly, also wasn't the best decision to go with. Now, like an ambiguous ending, I feel that a happy ending is something that can work, but the way that the marketing had been building up Crystalized, I was honestly expecting something to be a bit different than a really happy ending. And I'm not saying something like a more sad ending or a more bittersweet ending would have been the way to go, but at the same time, I don't think an ending where just everyone gets the kind of happy ending was the best decision to go with. Now, look, I can definitely respect the decisions that were made when it came to the ending, but at the same time, there is definitely a lot of things that I would have ended up changing in order for there to be a better ending that would have honestly fit a lot better when it comes to the story. Especially given all the information that we know from the earlier seasons. Just seriously, what the heck was this ending, honestly? So overall, when it comes to Roots, if I was to give this episode a score from 1 out of 10, I'd honestly have to give this a 2 out of 10, and that's for that one nice moment with the ninja and the fight against the Overlord, and those are literally the only two positives I can give this episode. Everything else during this episode I feel was handled really poorly. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below what do you guys think. What are your guys' thoughts when it comes to the ending of Crystalized? Tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.